The South Carolina sun hung low over the cotton fields, casting long shadows across the Whitmore plantation. Isaiah wiped sweat from his brow as he carried the silver serving tray back toward the main house, his calloused hands gripping the ornate handles with practiced care. At 22 years old, he had learned to move through the world of white folks like a ghost, present but invisible, useful but unthreatening. It was the only way to survive. The year was 1831, and the plantation stretched across hundreds of acres of fertile land. Cotton fields dominated the landscape, their white bowls ready for harvest, while closer to the main house, carefully manicured gardens displayed the Whitmore family's wealth and status. Isaiah had worked these grounds since he was 10, first in the fields alongside his mother, then later, after Mrs. Whitmore noticed his intelligence and quick learning, brought closer to the house for more delicate tasks. Mr. Banturuwa cried. Richard Whitmore ruled the plantation with an iron fist. A tall man with graying temples and cold blue eyes, he commanded respect through fear rather than admiration. His reputation for brutal punishments kept the slaves in line. Isaiah had witnessed too many whippings, too many families torn apart at the auction block, too many bodies broken by labor and violence. The master's word was absolute law, and questioning it meant death or something worse. Beyond the main house, hidden among a grove of ancient oaks draped in Spanish moss, sat a small cabin. Originally built as a hunting lodge, it now served as Mr. Whitmore's private retreat, a place where he conducted business away from his wife's delicate sensibilities, or so he claimed. Isaiah had been assigned the task of maintaining the cabin, bringing supplies, and ensuring it remained ready for the master's unpredictable visits. The work gave Isaiah a strange kind of freedom. The cabin sat far enough from the main house that he could sometimes breathe without feeling eyes on his back. The surrounding forest held its own dangers, wild animals, snakes, and the ever-present threat of slave catchers hunting runaways. But it also offered brief moments of solitude that were precious beyond measure. Mrs. Madeline Whitmore was a mystery to everyone on the plantation. She had arrived from Charleston 3 years ago, a young bride of 19 married to a man twice her age. Beautiful in a haunting way, with dark hair and gray eyes that seemed to hold perpetual sadness, she drifted through the main house like a specter. Unlike many plantation mistresses who involved themselves in household management, Madeline kept to herself, spending hours in her room or taking long, solitary walks through the gardens and into the forest. Isaiah had noticed her watching him sometimes, not with the calculating gaze of someone assessing property, but with genuine curiosity, perhaps even loneliness. It made him deeply uncomfortable. Any interaction between a slave and the master's wife beyond basic service could be misconstrued, and misconceptions led to nooses and unmarked graves. On a humid afternoon in late August, Isaiah made his way to the cabin with fresh linens and provisions. Mr. Whitmore had mentioned needing the place prepared for a business meeting the following day. The path through the forest was familiar, worn smooth by Isaiah's frequent trips, and he moved quickly, wanting to finish before dark. As he approached the cabin, Isaiah noticed something unusual. The door stood slightly ajar, and through the windows, he could see movement inside. His heart quickened. Mr. Whitmore wasn't supposed to be here today. Had someone broken in? Runaways sometimes sought shelter in abandoned buildings, and if Isaiah discovered them, he would face an impossible choice: report them and condemn them to torture and death, or stay silent and risk his own life if they were discovered. He set down his burden quietly and crept closer, peering through the window. What he saw made his blood run cold. Mrs. Madeline Whitmore sat on the simple wooden chair in the cabin's main room, still dressed in her fine day gown, but with her hair loosened from its usual severe arrangement. She wasn't reading or doing needlework. She simply sat, staring at nothing, her hands clasped so tightly in her lap that her knuckles had turned white. Tears streaked her pale cheeks. Isaiah's first instinct was to leave immediately, to pretend he had seen nothing, but before he could move, Madeline's head turned toward the window. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Isaiah knew he couldn't simply disappear. She had seen him, and now he had to face whatever came next. He picked up the linens and supplies with trembling hands and knocked on the doorframe, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mrs. Whitmore, ma'am. I didn't know you was here. Mr. Whitmore sent me to prepare the cabin." "Come in, Isaiah." Her voice was soft but steady, though the evidence of crying remained on her face. He entered slowly, keeping his eyes down, every muscle tensed. This was dangerous. If anyone saw them alone together, if anyone even suspected impropriety, he would hang. The rules were clear. A black man alone with a white woman meant death. No questions asked, no trial needed. "You can set those things down," Madeline said, gesturing vaguely toward the table. "I won't keep you long." Isaiah did as instructed, moving quickly, efficiently, trying to be invisible despite being the only other person in the room. He could feel her watching him, and the weight of that gaze made his skin crawl with fear. "How long have you worked for my husband, Isaiah?" The question surprised him. "Since I was a boy, ma'am, about 12 years now." "Do you ever think about freedom? About what life might be like if you could choose your own path?" The question was so dangerous, so loaded with potential disaster, that Isaiah's mind raced for the right answer, the safe answer. "I don't think about such things, ma'am. Ain't my place to think about such things." Madeline stood, and Isaiah instinctively took a step back. She noticed and stopped, a flash of something, pain, guilt, crossing her features. "I'm sorry. I don't mean to frighten you. I've been watching you, Isaiah. Not in any unseemly way," she added quickly, seeing his expression. "But you're different from the others. You think, you feel. I can see it in your eyes. Please, ma'am, I should go. If someone finds us..." "Isaiah..." She moved closer, and he could smell her perfume, expensive and foreign. "I need your help with something that no one else can know about." Those words, the exact words that would echo in Isaiah's nightmares for weeks to come, hung in the air between them. His heart hammered so violently he thought it might burst from his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to get away from this woman and her dangerous requests, but his feet remained rooted to the floor. "I can't, ma'am. Whatever it is, I can't. Please don't ask me. You haven't even heard what I need." Madeline's voice carried a note of desperation. "I have no one else, Isaiah. No one I can trust. My husband. He's not the man I thought I married. He's done things, terrible things, and I've been too afraid to speak up, too afraid of what he might do." Isaiah's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Begging your pardon, ma'am, but plenty of terrible things happen on this plantation every day. That's the way of things. That's the way it's always been. But it doesn't have to be." Madeline's gray eyes blazed with sudden intensity. "I have information, proof of something my husband has done that even the other plantation owners would find unforgivable. Something that could ruin him, maybe even see him prosecuted. But I need help hiding the evidence until the right moment. Will you help me, Isaiah? Please." Isaiah felt the walls closing in. This was madness. Even if Mrs. Whitmore's intentions were pure, and he doubted anything involving white folks' affairs could be pure, he would be the one to pay if anything went wrong. Slaves didn't testify against masters. Slaves didn't get involved in white people's conflicts. Slaves who overstepped their bounds ended up dead. "What kind of proof?" he heard himself ask, immediately regretting it. Madeline reached into her dress pocket and withdrew a leather-bound journal, worn and clearly well used. "This contains records of my husband's dealings. Not just the plantation accounts, but everything. The slaves he's murdered and reported as runaways. The debts he's hidden from his creditors. The way he's been stealing from his own investors." She paused, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. and the children he's fathered with slave women, then sold away to hide the evidence. The last revelation hit Isaiah like a physical blow. He'd heard rumors, of course. Every slave on the plantation knew that certain children bore unmistakable resemblances to the master, but speaking such truths aloud was suicide. That Madeline knew and cared enough to document it. That was perhaps the most shocking thing of all. "If anyone finds that book, you're dead," Isaiah said flatly. "And anyone helping you is dead too. Why tell me? Why put me in this position?" "Because you're smart enough to understand why it matters, and brave enough to do what's right." Madeline's eyes pleaded with him. "I've watched you, Isaiah. I've seen how you help the other slaves when you think no one is looking. How you teach the children their letters in the evening, even though it's forbidden. You're not just surviving, you're trying to make things better however you can." Isaiah's blood ran cold. If she knew about the secret lessons, who else might know? Teaching slaves to read was illegal, punishable by whipping or worse. He'd been so careful, only working with the youngest children in the dark corners of the quarters, but apparently not careful enough. "You won't tell?" he asked, hating how vulnerable he sounded. "I would never." Madeline held the journal out to him. "Hide this somewhere safe, somewhere my husband would never think to look. When the time is right, I'll need you to help me get it to certain people in Charleston, people who can use it to bring him down." "And what happens to me after that?" Isaiah's voice was bitter. "You think those Charleston gentlemen will thank a slave for his service? You think I'll be freed as a reward? More likely I'll disappear, just another troublesome Negro who knew too much." Madeline flinched at his words, but she didn't deny them. "I can't promise you'll be safe. I can't even promise I'll be safe. But I can promise that if we do nothing, more people will die, more families will be torn apart, more children will be sold away from their mothers." She pressed the journal into his reluctant hands. "Help me, Isaiah. Please." The leather felt heavy in his grip, weighted with all the death and destruction it could bring. He should throw it in the fire. He should run back to the main house and forget this conversation ever happened. But looking at Madeline's desperate face, thinking about all the horrors he'd witnessed in 12 years of slavery, Isaiah found himself nodding. "I'll hide it," he said quietly. "But we can't meet like this again. Too dangerous. If you need to get word to me, leave a blue ribbon tied to the oak tree by the garden path. I'll know to come to the cabin after dark." Relief washed over Madeline's features. "Thank you, Isaiah. You can't know what this means to me." "I hope it's worth what it might cost," he replied, tucking the journal under his shirt. "I better go before someone notices we've both been gone too long." He left quickly, his mind racing as he made his way back through the forest. The journal felt like it was burning against his skin, a brand marking him for death. Where could he possibly hide it that Mr. Whitmore wouldn't find? The slave quarters were subject to random searches. The main house was out of the question. Even the cabin wasn't safe. The master used it too frequently. That night, after the other slaves had fallen into exhausted sleep, Isaiah slipped out of the quarters and made his way to the oldest part of the plantation, a section of the property that had once been worked but now lay fallow, overgrown with vines and brambles. Here, among the ruins of an ancient barn that had burned years before Isaiah was born, he found what he was looking for, a hollow in the stone foundation, hidden behind a tangle of blackberry bushes. He wrapped the journal in oilcloth he'd stolen from the kitchen and wedged it deep into the crevice, then carefully arranged stones and debris to conceal the opening. It would be safe here, at least for a while. The burned barn held bad memories for the slaves. 3 people had died in the fire, trapped when the doors were locked from the outside, and the place was said to be haunted. No one came here unless forced to. As he worked, Isaiah allowed himself to think about what he'd agreed to do. He was now complicit in a plot against his master, holding evidence that could lead to Mr. Whitmore's downfall. If discovered, Isaiah's death would be long and public, an example to any other slaves who might consider rebellion. But beneath the fear, he felt something else, a spark of grim satisfaction. Maybe, just maybe, some small piece of justice could be carved out of this hell. Over the following weeks, Isaiah and Madeline developed a careful system of communication. The blue ribbon would appear on the oak tree, and that night Isaiah would make his way to the cabin, always varying his route, always ensuring he wasn't followed. They would meet for brief conversations, never more than 15 or 20 minutes, discussing the logistics of eventually getting the journal to Charleston. But as the meetings continued, something unexpected began to happen. They started talking about more than just the plot. Madeline would ask Isaiah about his life, his thoughts, his dreams of freedom. He found himself opening up in ways he never had before, speaking honestly about the daily humiliations and horrors of slavery in ways he could never dare with another slave, for fear of spreading despair. And Madeline shared her own story, how she'd been essentially sold into marriage by her impoverished family, how she discovered too late the kind of man Richard Whitmore truly was, how she felt trapped in a gilded cage with no hope of escape. Her loneliness mirrored his in strange ways, though Isaiah never forgot the vast gulf between them. She was trapped by social conventions and marriage law. He was trapped by chains and whips. "Do you hate me?" Madeline asked one night, her voice small in the darkness of the cabin. Isaiah considered the question carefully. "I hate what you represent, ma'am. I hate the world that lets you live in comfort while people who look like me die in the fields. But you, yourself?" He paused. "No, ma'am, I don't hate you. I pity you, maybe, and that's probably not much better." "You're right to pity me," Madeline said softly. "I'm a coward. I've known what my husband is for 2 years now, and I've done nothing but document his crimes in secret. I tell myself I'm gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment, but really I'm just too afraid to act." "Fear doesn't make you a coward," Isaiah replied. "Fear is the only sensible response to men like your husband. What makes you different is that you're trying to do something despite your fear." Their conversations grew longer, more intimate in their honesty, if not their content. Isaiah found himself thinking about Madeline during the day, wondering what she was doing, how she was managing the performance of being the dutiful plantation wife. It was dangerous on multiple levels. Not just the physical danger of their secret meetings, but the emotional danger of beginning to see her as something other than his master's wife. 2 months after their first meeting, disaster nearly struck. Jacob Reeves, the plantation overseer, was a cruel man who took pleasure in finding excuses to punish slaves. He'd noticed Isaiah's occasional nighttime absences and began watching him with increased attention. One evening, as Isaiah returned from the burned barn where he'd gone to check on the hidden journal, he found Reeves waiting near the slave quarters, half hidden in shadow. "Where you been, boy?" Reeves demanded, his voice thick with suspicion and cheap whiskey. "Just walking, sir," Isaiah replied, keeping his tone respectful and his eyes down. "Couldn't sleep, needed some air." "Walking where? Toward the forest? You thinking about running, Isaiah?" "That would be mighty stupid of you." "No, sir, never. I wouldn't get far anyway, would I?" Reeves stepped closer, and Isaiah could smell the alcohol on his breath. "I've been watching you. Something's different lately. You're up to something, I can feel it. And when I figure out what, you're going to wish you'd never been born." "I ain't up to nothing, Mr. Reeves. Just trying to stay out of trouble and do my work." The overseer grabbed Isaiah's shirt, pulling him close. "You see Mr. Whitmore's wife walking alone sometimes, don't you? Out toward those woods where you like to wander?" Isaiah's blood turned to ice. "I see lots of things, sir, but I don't pay them no mind. Not my place to notice white folks' business." "You better hope that's true." Reeves released him roughly. "Because if I find out you've been anywhere near Mrs. Whitmore, if I even suspect you've looked at her wrong, I'll personally see you skinned alive. Understand?" "Yes, sir, I understand." Reeves spat on the ground and walked away, leaving Isaiah shaking with fear and adrenaline. The overseer didn't know anything concrete, but he was suspicious, and that was dangerous enough. Isaiah knew he needed to warn Madeline, to suggest they stop meeting for a while, but the thought of leaving her without that small connection, that brief window of honest conversation, filled him with unexpected sorrow. Mr. Whitmore returned from a business trip to Charleston in a foul mood. Isaiah, serving dinner that evening, overheard shouting from the master's study. Something about investments gone wrong, creditors becoming impatient, social standing being threatened. Madeline sat silently through dinner, her face carefully blank, but Isaiah noticed her hands trembling slightly as she raised her wine glass. After dinner, as Isaiah cleared the dishes, Mr. Whitmore called him into the study. Isaiah's heart raced as he entered the wood-paneled room, certain that somehow his secret had been discovered. "Isaiah," the master began, pouring himself a generous whiskey, "you've been in my service a long time. Longer than most. I like to think I've treated you fairly." "Yes, sir," Isaiah replied automatically, the required response regardless of truth. "I have a task for you. I need someone I can trust to deliver a package to a gentleman in Charleston. It contains important documents, business matters that must be handled discreetly. You'll take the wagon tomorrow morning, deliver the package, and return immediately. No stops, no conversations with anyone. Can you do that?" Isaiah's mind raced. A trip to Charleston. That was where Madeline wanted to eventually take the journal. But this task from Mr. Whitmore felt like a test, or perhaps a trap. "Yes, sir, I can do that." "Good." Whitmore handed him a sealed envelope. "This is the address. Memorize it, then burn this paper. The gentleman will give you a receipt. Guard it with your life. It's proof of delivery, and I'll need it for my records." As Isaiah left the study, he caught a glimpse of Madeline standing in the hallway, her face pale. She'd been listening, he realized, and now they both understood that Mr. Whitmore was moving pieces on a chessboard they couldn't fully see. Whatever was in that package, it was important enough to risk sending a slave to Charleston with it. Important enough to potentially change everything. That night, Isaiah found a blue ribbon on the oak tree. He went to the cabin with mounting anxiety, knowing this meeting was more dangerous than ever with Reeves watching and Mr. Whitmore's mood so volatile. Madeline was already there, pacing the small space like a caged animal. "Did he tell you about Charleston?" she asked the moment Isaiah entered. "Yes, ma'am. I'm to deliver a package tomorrow." "This is it, Isaiah. This is our chance. My husband is sending you to Mr. Thomas Grimsby. I know because I saw the address before he sealed it. Grimsby is one of the few men in Charleston society who actually has a conscience. He's been quietly speaking against slavery at church meetings, much to his social detriment." Madeline grabbed Isaiah's hands, her touch shocking in its urgency. "You have to take the journal with you. Find a way to get it to Grimsby along with the package. He'll understand what to do with it." Isaiah pulled his hands away, panic rising. "That's insane. What if Mr. Whitmore finds out? What if Grimsby tells him? I'll be killed before I even make it back to the plantation." "Grimsby won't tell. I know his family. He's a good man, Isaiah. This is what we've been planning for. We may never get another chance. You're asking me to bet my life on the goodness of a white man I've never met." Isaiah's voice was harsh with fear and anger. "You know how insane that sounds. I'm asking you to help me stop a monster." Madeline's eyes burned with intensity. "My husband has destroyed so many lives, Isaiah. How many more people have to die before someone takes a stand? I can't do this without you. I've tried, but I have no freedom of movement, no way to contact people outside my husband's circle without arousing suspicion. You're the only one who can do this." Isaiah turned away, staring out the cabin window at the dark forest beyond. He thought about all the people Mr. Whitmore had destroyed, the families torn apart at auction, the men and women worked to death in the fields, the children sold away to distant plantations. He thought about his own mother, dead from exhaustion 3 years ago, her body buried in an unmarked grave like she'd never existed. "If I do this," he said slowly, "and if by some miracle it works, what happens to the rest of us? The journal goes public, Whitmore is ruined, maybe arrested. But what about the slaves? We'll just be sold to another master, probably separated and sent to different plantations. Your justice won't free us." "I know," Madeline's voice broke. "I know, and I hate it. But at least Whitmore won't be able to hurt anyone else. It's not enough. It will never be enough, but it's something." Isaiah closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Every logical part of his mind screamed that this was suicide, that he should refuse, that he should focus on his own survival. But a deeper part of him, the part that had learned to read in secret and taught others despite the danger, the part that still believed in something beyond mere survival, that part knew what he had to do. "I'll do it," he whispered. "God help me. I'll do it." Isaiah left before dawn with Mr. Whitmore's package and the hidden journal, both wrapped separately and concealed in the wagon. The journey to Charleston would take most of the day, and he'd been instructed to return immediately after delivery. No time for mistakes, no room for hesitation. The road passed through other plantations, small towns, and stretches of pine forest. Isaiah kept his papers, the pass that allowed him to travel, readily available, knowing that slave patrols could stop him at any time. He'd been given a story. He was delivering business documents for his master and must return promptly. Any deviation would be reported, and the consequences would be severe. As he traveled, Isaiah thought about what he was about to do. The enormity of it threatened to overwhelm him. He was carrying evidence that could bring down one of South Carolina's prominent plantation owners. If successful, it might expose the depths of cruelty that everyone knew existed, but polite society refused to acknowledge. But if he failed, if Grimsby turned out to be less sympathetic than Madeline believed, Isaiah wouldn't just die. He would die slowly, publicly, as an example to any other slave who might consider rebellion. Charleston emerged from the coastal plain like a mirage of civilization. Grand houses, bustling docks, church spires reaching toward heaven, while the slave market conducted its unholy business in the shadow of those same churches. Isaiah had been here once before, years ago, and the contradiction of beauty and horror still struck him. He found the Grimsby residence in the wealthy district, an elegant townhouse with wrought iron gates and manicured gardens. His heart pounded as he approached the servant's entrance, as required for a slave on business. A house servant, an elderly black man with careful eyes, answered the door. "What's your business?" "Delivery for Mr. Grimsby from Mr. Richard Whitmore of the Whitmore plantation." The old man studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Wait here." Minutes felt like hours until Thomas Grimsby himself appeared. A man in his 40s with kind eyes and a gentle manner that seemed at odds with the ruthless world of Charleston society. "You're from the Whitmore plantation?" "Yes, sir." Isaiah handed him the sealed package from Mr. Whitmore. "I was told to deliver this and bring back a receipt." Grimsby took the package, weighing it in his hands. "Wait here a moment while I verify the contents." This was it, Isaiah's moment of decision. He could simply wait, get his receipt, and return to the plantation. Continue surviving, continue enduring, avoid the risk. Or he could take the leap that might end in his death. "Sir," Isaiah said quietly, glancing around to ensure they were alone. "There's something else. Something Mrs. Whitmore wanted me to give you." Grimsby's expression shifted, becoming guarded. "Mrs. Whitmore." Isaiah pulled out the journal, wrapped in oilcloth. "She said you'd understand what to do with this. She said you were a man who might actually do something." Grimsby took the journal with trembling hands, his face paling as he flipped through the first few pages. "Dear God," he whispered, "where did she get this?" "Her husband kept records, sir. Records of everything." "This is..." Grimsby looked up at Isaiah, his eyes wide with shock and something that might have been respect. "Do you understand what you've just given me? What this means?" "I understand it could get me killed, sir, but Mrs. Whitmore seemed to think it was important enough to risk." "It is. God help us all, it is." Grimsby closed the journal carefully. I need time to study this, to determine the best way to proceed. These accusations, if true, and they appear to be meticulously documented, could destroy Whitmore. But I need to be careful. He has powerful friends, and if I move too quickly, they might be able to suppress this. I have to return today, sir. If I'm late, they'll know something's wrong. Of course. Grimsby disappeared into the house and returned with the required receipt for Whitmore's package, along with a sealed letter. Give this to Mrs. Whitmore. Tell her I understand, and I will act. Tell her to be careful. Her husband must not suspect anything until I'm ready to move. Isaiah took the letter, tucking it safely into his shirt. What about the people on the plantation, sir? When this comes out, what happens to us? Grimsby's expression filled with regret. I don't know. The law is complicated, and I'm not sure I can protect anyone beyond exposing Whitmore's crimes. I'm sorry. I wish I could promise more. That's what I figured. Isaiah turned to leave, then paused. Do it anyway, sir. Even if we end up sold to someone else, at least we'll know someone tried to make things right. The journey back to the plantation was a blur of anxiety. Isaiah kept expecting slave patrols to stop him, to somehow know what he'd done, to drag him off for immediate execution. But the road remained quiet, and he arrived back at the plantation just before sunset, well within his allotted time. He delivered the receipt to Mr. Whitmore, who barely glanced at him before dismissing him with a wave. Isaiah went to the kitchen, ostensibly to help with evening meal preparations, but really to catch Madeline's eye and indicate he needed to speak with her. She received the message with the slightest nod. That night, risking everything, Isaiah went to the cabin. He couldn't use the ribbon system, there hadn't been time, but he knew Madeline would find a way to be there. She arrived within 15 minutes, breathless from running. Did you do it? Did you give it to Grimsby? Yes, ma'am. Isaiah handed her the sealed letter. He said he understands and will act, but you need to be careful. Your husband can't suspect anything. Madeline broke the seal with shaking hands and read by the light of a single candle. Tears streamed down her face as she read Grimsby's words. Words Isaiah couldn't see but could guess at from her reaction. He's going to do it, she whispered. He's going to expose everything. He says it might take weeks to gather the right allies and prepare the legal documentation, but he will do it. What happens to you when it comes out? Isaiah asked. Your husband will know you were involved. I don't care. Madeline looked at him, her eyes blazing with something like triumph mixed with terror. Let him know. Let everyone know. I'm tired of being silent, tired of being complicit through my inaction. You might care when he's beating you bloody, Isaiah said harshly, or when his friends decide you need to be punished for betraying your own kind. Then I'll endure it. Madeline moved closer, and in a gesture that shocked them both, she took Isaiah's hand. Thank you for trusting me, for taking that risk. I know what it cost you. Isaiah looked down at their joined hands. Black and white, slave and mistress, two people from opposite sides of an unbridgeable divide who had somehow found common ground in their shared hatred of injustice. We should stop meeting, he said softly. The overseer's suspicious. Now that the journal's in Grimsby's hands, there's no reason for us to keep taking this risk. I know, but Madeline didn't release his hand. I know, but these conversations have been the only real thing in my life for months. The only time I could speak honestly, be something other than Richard Whitmore's decorative wife. And what am I supposed to be? Isaiah pulled his hand away, sudden anger flaring. Your pet project? Your way of feeling better about living in luxury while people who look like me die in the fields? You say these talks mean something to you, but when Whitmore goes down, you'll go back to Charleston society, find another husband maybe, and I'll still be a slave. Nothing changes for me. You're right. Madeline's voice was small. You're absolutely right. I'm selfish and naive, and I've been using you to make myself feel less guilty about my complicity in this evil system. I'm sorry, Isaiah. I'm so sorry." Her tears struck Isaiah more deeply than her earlier determination had. He felt his anger drain away, replaced by exhaustion and a profound sadness. "It don't matter now," he said quietly. "What's done is done. We just have to wait and see if Grimsby comes through." 3 weeks passed in agonizing normalcy. Isaiah returned to his regular duties, avoiding the cabin, keeping his head down. Madeline maintained her role as the dutiful wife, attending social functions and managing the household, with no sign of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Then, one morning, Mr. Whitmore called a gathering of all the plantation slaves. Isaiah's stomach dropped as he joined the others in front of the main house. The master stood on the veranda, his face twisted with rage, and beside him stood Overseer Reeves, holding a thick leather whip. "We have a thief among us," Whitmore announced, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "Someone has been stealing my property, interfering with my business affairs, and conspiring against me. I know who it is, and today, justice will be served." Isaiah's heart nearly stopped. They knew, somehow they knew about the journal, about Charleston, about everything. He braced himself for Reeves to call his name, for the nightmare to begin. But it wasn't his name Whitmore called. "Bring out Samuel." An older slave, one of the field hands Isaiah knew casually, was dragged forward by 2 of the overseers. Samuel looked confused and terrified, clearly having no idea what he was being accused of. "This man," Whitmore continued, "was found with documents in his quarters, documents detailing plantation business that he had no right to possess. The penalty for theft and conspiracy is clear." Isaiah watched in horror as Samuel was tied to the whipping post. The old man protested his innocence, swearing he'd never stolen anything, but his words were drowned out by the first crack of the whip. The beating went on, far longer than any punishment Isaiah had seen before, until Samuel hung unconscious from his bonds, his back a mass of torn flesh. "Let this be a lesson," Whitmore said coldly. "I will not tolerate disloyalty or theft. Anyone who conspires against me will face the same fate." As the slaves dispersed, forced to return to their work, despite the horror they'd witnessed, Isaiah understood the truth with sickening clarity. This wasn't about stolen documents. Samuel was innocent, a sacrificial victim to intimidate everyone else. But what did it mean? Did Whitmore know about the journal, or didn't he? Was this elaborate performance meant to flush out the real culprit, or was it genuine paranoia? That night, a blue ribbon appeared on the oak tree. Despite every instinct screaming at him to stay away, Isaiah went to the cabin. He had to know what Madeline knew. She was frantic when he arrived. "Did you see? Did you see what he did to that poor man?" "Of course I saw. Everyone saw. That was the point. He knows something's wrong. I don't know how much he knows, but he's suspicious. He's been going through his documents, checking and rechecking his records. He hasn't mentioned the journal specifically, but he knows something is missing." Then Samuel was innocent, completely innocent. Richard planted those documents in his quarters as an excuse for the beating. He's trying to scare someone into confessing or making a mistake. Madeline gripped Isaiah's arms desperately. "We have to warn Grimsby. We have to tell him to move faster." "How?" "I can't make another trip to Charleston without arousing suspicion. We're out of time and out of options." "Then we wait." Madeline released him, her face set with determination. "We wait, and we trust that Grimsby will act before Richard discovers the truth. And if he discovers it..." She trailed off, the unspoken consequences hanging between them. 2 more weeks crawled by. Samuel recovered enough to return to light duty, though he would carry the scars forever, both physical and mental. Mr. Whitmore's mood remained volatile, swinging between rage and forced cheerfulness. Isaiah kept his distance, tried to be invisible, and prayed that Grimsby would act soon. Then, on a grey October afternoon, as Isaiah worked in the garden near the main house, he saw a carriage arrive bearing the insignia of Charleston's magistrate court. His heart leaped with hope and terror. This was it. Whatever Grimsby had set in motion was about to happen. Mr. Whitmore received the visitors in his study, and within minutes, raised voices could be heard even from outside. Isaiah edged closer, pretending to trim the hedges beneath the window, straining to hear. Serious allegations, Mr. Whitmore. Documented evidence of murder, fraud, and violations of even the minimal protections afforded to slave property. You'll need to come with us for questioning. This is absurd. I demand to know who has brought these false charges. The documentation appears to be in your own hands, sir, and there are witnesses prepared to testify to events described in your journal. That journal was stolen from my private property. Any evidence derived from stolen property is inadmissible. Perhaps that will be for the court to decide. In the meantime, you are required to appear before the magistrate tomorrow morning. I suggest you secure legal counsel. The magistrate and his deputies left, and Isaiah quickly moved away from the window before Whitmore emerged. But he wasn't fast enough. The master appeared on the veranda, his face purple with rage, and his eyes locked onto Isaiah with sudden, terrible understanding. "You," Whitmore said, his voice deadly quiet. "It was you. You've been meeting with my wife. You've been stealing my documents. You're the one who betrayed me." Isaiah froze, every muscle locked in terror. He wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The other slaves had stopped working, watching the confrontation with horrified fascination. "I don't know what you mean, sir," Isaiah tried, but his voice shook. "Don't lie to me." Whitmore descended the steps, moving toward Isaiah with murderous intent. "Reeves told me he'd seen you near the cabin, seen you wandering at night. I thought he was imagining things, but it all makes sense now. You've been meeting with Madeline, hasn't you? She's been using you to destroy me." Before Isaiah could respond, Whitmore lunged forward and grabbed him by the throat. Isaiah fought back instinctively, trying to break free, but that only enraged the master more. They struggled, and in the chaos, Whitmore lost his balance, falling backward down the veranda steps. He hit his head on the stone path with a sickening crack and lay still. The world stopped. Isaiah stared down at his master's motionless body, at the blood pooling beneath Whitmore's head, and understood that his life was over. Even if Whitmore survived, Isaiah had raised his hand against his master. The penalty was death, no matter the circumstances. "Run!" Madeline's voice cut through his paralysis. She had appeared at the door, taking in the scene with wide eyes. "Isaiah, run now. Head north. I'll tell them it was an accident, that he fell, but you have to go before Reeves gets here." "I can't." "Go." Madeline's voice cracked like a whip. "This is my fault. I dragged you into this. Don't let it end with your death. Please, Isaiah, run." The sound of shouting voices approached, Reeves and the other overseers responding to the commotion. Isaiah looked at Madeline one last time, seeing tears streaming down her face, seeing genuine grief and guilt in her eyes. Then he turned and ran. Isaiah ran through the familiar paths of the plantation, his mind racing faster than his feet. He couldn't go north. That was where they'd expect him to go. The slave patrols would be alerted within hours, and every road north would be watched. He needed to hide, to think, to figure out a plan that had any chance of success. The burned barn. It was the only place on the plantation where no one would want to look, the only place they considered cursed and avoided. Isaiah changed direction, heading for the abandoned ruins as the sun began to set. He reached the ruins as darkness fell, his lungs burning and his mind reeling from what had happened. He hadn't meant to hurt Whitmore. He'd only been defending himself from the master's attack. But intent meant nothing. A slave who harmed his master, regardless of reason, faced execution. Isaiah huddled in the same hollow where he'd hidden the journal weeks before, now empty since he'd delivered it to Grimsby. He could hear dogs in the distance, the beginning of the hunt that would consume the next hours, maybe days. They would find him eventually. The only question was whether they'd bring him back alive or dead. As the sounds of the search grew closer, Isaiah thought about his choices. He could surrender, face whatever punishment awaited, and at least die quickly. Or he could keep running, spend his final days or hours free, even knowing freedom would be brief. Both options ended in death. But then he heard something else. A single horse moving slowly, carefully through the forest. The rider dismounted nearby, and a familiar voice called out softly, "Isaiah, it's me, don't run." Madeline emerged from the darkness, dressed in riding clothes and carrying a large bag. She looked like a ghost in the moonlight, pale and trembling but determined. "What are you doing here?" Isaiah demanded. "If they find you, my husband is dead." Madeline's voice was flat, drained of emotion. He hit his head, and he never woke up. The magistrate's men are still there, and everyone is in chaos. No one noticed me leave. They'll blame me. They'll say I murdered him. I told them exactly what happened, that he attacked you, that you defended yourself, that he fell. Some of them might even believe it. But Reeves is organizing a search party, regardless. He wants you dead, Isaiah, and he doesn't care about truth or justice. Madeline thrust the bag at him. "Here, food, water, warm clothes, and all the money I could gather quickly. It's not much, but it might help you get north." Isaiah took the bag with numb hands. "Why are you doing this? You could be safe now. Your husband is dead. Grimsby has the journal, and you're free of him. Why risk yourself for me?" "Because this is my fault." Tears streamed down Madeline's face. "I asked for your help. I put you in danger. And because—" She paused, struggling with words. "Because in all my life, you're the only person who ever spoke to me like I was real. Not a pretty decoration, not a political alliance, not a prize to be won. You were honest with me, even when that honesty was harsh. I can't let you die because you were kind enough to help me. I'll probably die anyway. Even with your help, the chances of making it north are—" "Then at least you'll die free," Madeline interrupted. "At least you'll have tried. Please, Isaiah, take the bag and go." Grimsby's letter included contacts in Pennsylvania, people who help runaways. "The information is in the bag. It's a chance, maybe not a good one, but a chance." Isaiah looked at her, this woman who had inadvertently destroyed his life while trying to find justice, who represented everything he should hate, but who had shown him more genuine kindness than anyone in his position had a right to expect. "What happens to you?" he asked quietly. "I don't know. I'll be questioned about Richard's death. I'll have to face his family and their accusations. But I'll survive. I always have." She stepped closer, and for a moment Isaiah thought she might embrace him, but she held back, maintaining the last vestige of proper distance. "Thank you, Isaiah. For everything. I hope you find freedom. I hope you find peace." "I hope the journal does what you wanted it to do," Isaiah replied. "I hope something good comes from all this suffering." "So do I." Madeline remounted her horse, then paused. "The dogs are coming from the west. Head east toward the river, then follow it north. It will be harder for them to track you in the water." Then she was gone, riding back toward the main house and the chaos waiting there, leaving Isaiah alone in the darkness with a bag full of hope and desperation. Isaiah moved through the forest, following Madeline's advice, heading east toward the river. Behind him, the sounds of the search party grew louder, the baying of the hounds a reminder of everything he was running from. Ahead lay uncertainty. The river, the long road north, the slim chance of reaching Pennsylvania, and the people who might help him. He thought about Madeline's final words, about dying free rather than living in chains. He thought about the journal, now in Grimsby's hands, containing evidence of horrors that polite society preferred to ignore. Would it make a difference? Would it change anything, or would it be buried by powerful men protecting their own interests? Isaiah didn't know. He only knew that he was running, that he was alive, and that for the first time in his 22 years, his future was his own to determine, however brief that future might be. The sound of the river reached his ears, rushing water promising both danger and possibility. Isaiah adjusted the bag on his shoulder, checked that the papers with Grimsby's contacts were safely tucked inside, and stepped into the cold current. The water rose to his waist, pulling at him, threatening to sweep him away. But he pushed forward, moving north toward a freedom he could barely imagine. Behind him, the plantation and all its horrors faded into the darkness. Ahead lay an unknown future, full of danger, but also possibility. Isaiah didn't know if he would make it to Pennsylvania. He didn't know if Madeline would survive the aftermath of her husband's death. He didn't know if the journal would bring any kind of justice. But as he waded through the cold river water, feeling the current pulling him north, Isaiah knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was no longer just surviving. He was fighting. He was choosing. And for a man born into slavery, that alone was a form of freedom. The dog's baying grew fainter as he moved deeper into the river, the water washing away his scent, giving him precious time. Isaiah didn't look back. He only looked forward, toward the dark forest on the far bank and the long, dangerous road beyond. Freedom was still a distant dream, justice still uncertain, and survival far from guaranteed. But in that moment, moving through the cold river water with Madeline's final gift weighing on his shoulders, Isaiah felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. It was fragile and terrifying, and probably foolish, but it was real. And sometimes, hope was enough to keep running,